The scariest silence is not when they stop hearing you, it's when they realize you're not coming back. They thought silence was the punchline, that you'd disappear for a few days, then come crawling back with a good morning text or some deep, emotional message asking if they still care. They thought silence was your tantrum, something temporary, dramatic, and safe. But folks, here's the truth. Silence was just step one. The part that made them really panic was what came after. The moment they realized you weren't just quiet, you were done. Hey folks, imagine this. You're a lighthouse burning bright on a stormy coastline. For a while, you kept shining just for them, hoping they'd sail back, hoping they'd notice your light. But instead of anchoring near you, they drifted further, distracted by temporary things, temporary people. Then one day, the light goes out. Not because you're broken, but because you realize they were never sailing home. You didn't go dark out of pain. You went dark out of power. That's when they panic. Not because they miss you, but because they no longer have access to you. You see, silence on its own doesn't break them. What breaks them is the version of you that rises after it. That calm, confident, unbothered version. The you that doesn't explain, doesn't chase, doesn't care if they're watching. Silence isn't the end of the story. It's the cliffhanger that keeps them up at night. Because now they don't know what you're thinking. They don't know if you're healing, or if you've already moved on. And not knowing, that's the part that destroys them. Let's be real, my friends. Most people aren't scared of losing you. They're scared of no longer controlling how you feel. They're not scared that you're gone. They're scared that you're okay with it. They don't panic when you walk away. They panic when you stop looking back. That's when the tables turn. That's when the puppet cuts the strings. That's when the one who was once desperate becomes dangerous. You were giving them updates. You were posting to be seen. You were texting just to feel close. You were doing everything, hoping for crumbs. And now you're quiet, focused, evolving. And let me tell you something they'll never admit out loud. That's when the real fear sets in. When you stop dancing for their approval, they start wondering, who are you dancing for now? Quote time. People don't value what's always available. They value what's hard to reach and impossible to replace. And right now, that's who you're becoming. Someone they can't reach. Someone they can't replace. Someone they had easy access to and lost forever. This isn't just about revenge. It's not about playing games or proving points. This is about taking your energy back. This is about stepping into your power, your peace, your silence, and letting that silence speak louder than any begging ever could. Because real growth is quiet, real power is still, and real confidence doesn't chase anyone. So write this in the comments right now. I am the storm. Let them see it. Let you see it. Let the world around you know. You're not playing their little game anymore. You've leveled up. And they're stuck replaying your silence like an old voicemail they can't delete. Stay with me because we're about to go deep. The silence was just step one, my friends. The transformation that came after, that's the part that made them panic. Let's show you exactly why. Number one, they don't panic when you go silent. They panic when you stay silent. Silence doesn't scare them until it becomes a pattern they can't break. Let's make one thing very clear. Disappearing for a few days isn't what rattles them. That's what they expected. That's what they wanted. They thought you'd go quiet for a moment, have your little emotional episode, then come crawling back, just like before. They thought silence was just a pause, not a goodbye. But here's the truth, folks. They don't panic when you go silent. They panic when you stay silent. Imagine this. You're in a room with someone who always talks, always checks in, always gives updates, always shows up, no matter how many times they're ignored. And then one day, the room goes quiet. At first, it's peaceful, maybe even convenient, but then a day passes, then another. No text, no post, no reaction. That's when the tension creeps in. Not from noise, but from lack of it. You're no longer just quiet, you're gone, and that's what their mind can't handle. See, silence by itself, that's just background noise. Everyone goes silent once in a while, but when silence becomes your new behavior, your new identity, that's when it hits. Because now they realize, you're not waiting anymore, you're not sulking, you're not watching the phone, you're done performing, and yet your absence starts to echo. Every laugh they hear reminds them of yours. Every place you once visited together suddenly feels like it's missing something. At first, they brush it off. They'll reach out, they always do. But days pass, then weeks. Still nothing. And now the questions start hitting them harder than any message you could have sent. Did I lose them for good? Why aren't they reaching out? Have they moved on? You want to know what's wild? In their mind, your silence was supposed to be temporary, a strategy, a bluff. But now they're realizing you didn't just go silent, you found peace. And nothing is more terrifying to someone who once controlled your emotions than realizing they no longer affect you at all. They were never scared of losing you. They were scared of losing your reactions, your attention, your need for them. They relied on you texting first, on you explaining everything, on you always being the emotional bridge between their inconsistency and your connection. But now that bridge has collapsed, and they're standing on the other side, watching you rebuild without them. That's when they panic. Not because you're gone, but because you stayed gone. And let's be honest, my friends, staying silent isn't easy. It hurts at first. Every minute feels like a test. Your fingers itch to send just one more message. Your mind tries to convince you they just need a little nudge, a little reminder, a little, hey, I still care. But that's the lie silence reveals. Because every time you speak, you give them evidence that they still hold power over your emotions, that you're still tied to their approval. But the moment you don't react, the moment you stay silent long enough for them to start wondering, that's when the power shifts. Silence is a mirror, and most people can't stand their reflection. They start to realize how much they took for granted, how much you gave, how badly they played it. But by then, it's not about apologies anymore. It's about consequences. And your silence, that's the consequence they never expected. Quote, time. If my silence doesn't bother you, my absence will. And folks, that's where the real fire begins. Because you didn't just remove your voice, you removed your presence, you removed your energy, you removed the part of yourself they thought they could always come back to, and now it's gone. And don't let fear talk you out of this. Don't let that voice in your head whisper things like, what if they forget me? Or what if they move on? Let them. If your silence makes them replace you easily, then they never valued you to begin with. You're not here to beg for remembrance. You're here to become unforgettable by walking away and never looking back. You don't need to make noise to be felt. You don't need to post cryptic stories, drop indirect quotes, or play psychological games. Your silence says everything. It says, I'm done being your emotional crutch. It says, I don't chase love, I receive it. It says, I'm not afraid of losing someone who was okay with losing me. And when that silence stretches long enough for you to heal, you to grow, you to stop hoping, that's when they panic for real. That's when their casual scroll turns into obsession. That's when the cool act melts and their pride begins to crack. They'll check your page, stalk your photos, search your name in messages just to feel close to a ghost. You didn't haunt them with threats. You haunted them with your absence. Let's say it together. I stay silent and I rise. Write it in the comments. Show yourself. Show them. Show the world. You're not here to be predictable. You're not here to be someone's convenience. You're here to become so powerful in your stillness that your silence echoes louder than your presence ever did. Stay with me, because what's coming next is even deeper. You'll see exactly why silence wasn't the weapon. It was just the opening move. The storm begins after that, and they're not ready for it, but you will be. Number 2, they panic when you get peaceful. Your peace will disturb the demons that once fed on your chaos. You want to know the truth, my friends. They weren't scared when you stopped texting. They weren't scared when you went silent. They weren't even scared when you disappeared off the grid. No, that's not what made them panic. What made them panic was your peace, your calm, your ability to sit in stillness without reaching, without reacting, without needing their attention like oxygen. That's when it hit them. That's when fear crept into their mind like a slow, cold wind, whispering the one thing they never wanted to believe. You don't need them anymore. Imagine this, a storm that raged every day. Lightning, thunder, noise. It was messy, but predictable. You were the storm, always pouring emotion, always thundering presence, always sending messages, chasing closure, reacting to every breadcrumb they tossed your way. And then one day, silence, stillness, peace. The clouds part. The sun comes out. You're no longer the storm. You're the calm after it. That's what scares them, because they didn't fall in love with your peace, they fed on your pain. You see, folks, when someone is used to controlling your emotions, your chaos is their comfort. Your breakdowns are their fuel. Your endless need for answers makes them feel important. But the second you stop fighting for their attention and start fighting for your own peace, you become untouchable. You no longer react, you no longer explain, you no longer hope, and now they're the ones spiraling because the chaos they depended on is gone. At first, they tell themselves you're just being distant, that you're playing some game, that you'll come around. But the longer your peace stretches, the longer your silence becomes serenity, the more their confidence breaks. And now they're not just wondering where you are, they're wondering who you're becoming. Because the person they used to shake with a simple "seen" message is now completely unbothered. Let me say this loud for the ones in the back. Peace is terrifying to people who once thrived in your confusion. And I get it. It's not easy at first. Peace feels weird when you're used to pain. When you've been in survival mode for so long, calm feels like a threat. You start questioning it. Am I just numb? Should I reach out? What if they've already moved on? But those aren't signs you're slipping. They're signs the programming is breaking. They're signs the emotional addiction is wearing off. That tight grip they once had on your mind, it's losing its hold. And that's exactly why they panic, because you didn't just walk away, you stayed away and found peace. You didn't go looking for replacements. You didn't blast angry stories. You didn't beg for closure. You just healed. In silence, in solitude, in your own sacred space. And now they're left trying to reconnect to the version of you that no longer exists. Quote time, your silence was a threat. But your peace, that's a declaration of war. You're no longer the person who needs a text to feel validated. You're not the one checking if they watched your story. You've stopped playing games where the scoreboard is built on suffering, and instead of chasing love that breaks you, you've started choosing peace that builds you. That shift in energy, that's what flips their mind upside down, because now they start remembering things. Not just the moments you gave them love, but the moments they rejected it. Not just the kindness, but the consistency, the devotion, the loyalty, all the things they never thought would go away. But they're not just mourning your words, your presence, your connection. They're mourning your emotional access. And you're not handing it out anymore. That's when they panic. When they realize you're not using silence as a weapon, you're using it as freedom. And freedom, my friends, is the one thing people who once controlled you can't stand. So now the tables turn. Now they're the ones losing sleep, refreshing your page, asking mutual friends if you're okay, wondering why the person who once gave them the entire universe is suddenly unreachable. But you know the truth. You didn't vanish to hurt them. You vanished to heal you. And healing doesn't come with announcements. It comes with stillness. And let me tell you something else. Not everyone will recognize your peace as strength. Some will call you cold. Some will say you've changed, that you're distant. But that's because they only loved the version of you that hurt. The version of you that was always available, always needing, always begging. And now that version is gone, and they don't know how to love this new you, the peaceful you, the one who doesn't chase. Say it with me. I choose peace over pain. Write it in the comments right now. Let it be your declaration. Let them see you mean it. Let the world know you're not here to fight for someone who wouldn't fight for you. You're here to finally be at peace with yourself. And listen, peace doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care more about your energy than their approval. It means you care more about your growth than their validation. It means you finally stopped bleeding for people who wouldn't even hand you a bandage. So the next time you wonder if your peace is power, remember how much it scared them. Remember how their silence was meant to control you, and now yours is transforming you. Remember that your calm is not weakness. It's clarity. It's strength. It's you finally stepping into who you were meant to be. They panic when you stop begging. They panic when you stop performing. But they truly lose their mind when you stop suffering. And that's the new you. Calm, clear, whole. Stay with me, because the next part of this journey, that's when the glow-up begins. And trust me, my friends, they are not ready for what's coming next. Number 3, they panic when you stop performing. When you stop playing the role, the ones who wrote the script start to fall apart. Let's be real, my friends. Half the reason they were so comfortable was because you kept performing. You were the one keeping the stage alive. You were the one doing the heavy lifting in the relationship, the planner, the fixer, the feeler, the emotional lifeline. They just had to show up, and you handled the rest. But the moment you stop performing, that's when panic sets in. Not confusion, not curiosity, panic. Because without your performance, their entire illusion collapses. Imagine a play with one actor left holding the scene together. They're forgetting lines, missing cues, unsure of where the story goes next. But the crowd claps anyway because you're there, guiding, smiling, giving more than you should. Now imagine you just stop mid-scene, no explanation. You walk off stage, the lights dim, curtains fall, the silence that follows, deafening. And that's exactly what happens when you stop performing emotionally for someone who was just there for the applause, not the effort. You were always the one reaching out first, sending the just checking in texts, making sure things stayed warm, being available, dropping little reminders that you cared, that they mattered, and they got used to it. They started treating your emotional labor like a subscription service, on-demand care, no investment required. But the day you cancelled that subscription, that's when they started to feel the cold. See, folks, they never realized how much work you were doing to keep things feeling alive. They thought that connection just stayed on its own. No, they forgot you were the one lighting the fire every time it started to burn out. You were the heat. You were the heartbeat. And now that you've stopped, they're realizing they brought nothing but their hands in their pockets and an ego too big to say thank you. Quote, time. Stop watering people who weren't planting anything back. Because that's what it was, a one-sided performance. And let's call it what it really was, emotional puppetry. You were dancing for approval. You were smiling through disrespect. You were bending to fit into their comfort zone, hoping one day, maybe, they'd appreciate it. But here's the lie they sold you, that if you just kept performing, they'd eventually wake up and applaud you for it. Nope. They were never going to clap. They were just going to keep watching until you broke. And now that the stage is empty and your energy is redirected, they're sitting in the dark theater of their own making, wondering why it suddenly feels so lonely, why the lights are off, why the warmth is gone. And for the first time, they feel the weight of what you carried. But it's too late. You're no longer the performer. You're the one who took the costume off and walked away with your dignity intact. Here's what most people don't understand. Performing in a relationship isn't just about action. It's about emotional over-functioning. It's you being the one who overthinks, over-texts, over-apologizes, over-loves. And they under-delivered. But they didn't complain, because as long as you were doing the work, they didn't have to. But now the gears have stopped turning, and you didn't just go silent, you stopped showing up emotionally. No more explanations, no more emotional updates, no more being the glue. You stepped back, you stopped showing up to fix what they kept breaking, and now the silence isn't quiet, it's suffocating, because they don't know how to function without your performance. Let's talk about the fear behind the scenes. The real panic they feel isn't about losing you. It's about losing what you did for them. You filled their emotional gaps. You made them feel special when they were putting in minimal effort. You covered up their inconsistencies with your loyalty, but now that the performance is over, they have to sit with their own emptiness. And trust me, they hate it. They'll start testing you, sending hey texts, reacting to your stories, fishing for signs that the show isn't over. But your silence now speaks louder than any script you ever performed. You're not playing the role anymore. You've rewritten the part. Now you're the director, and they didn't make the cut. And yes, it's going to be uncomfortable at first. The urge to go back to performing is strong, especially when you're used to being the one who holds everything together. But let me remind you, performing for love is not the same as being loved. When someone only values you when you're dancing for their comfort, that's not connection, that's control. Say it with me, I retire the role. Type it in the comments. Let them see it. Let you feel it. Because the person you're becoming, they don't perform. They receive. They attract. They exist in their truth, not on someone else's emotional payroll. And here's what's beautiful. When you stop performing, you make room for authenticity, for people who value presence over performance, for love that doesn't have to be earned through exhaustion. You stop clapping for people who never showed up for your show, and you start building your own stage. So let them panic, let them feel the absence of your energy, let them sit in the silence and wonder what changed. Because the truth is, everything changed. You finally saw yourself. You finally realized you were the fire and they were just keeping warm. And what comes next? Oh, they're not ready, because when the performer becomes the audience and starts watching them scramble to bring energy to a dead connection, it's not just powerful, it's poetic. Stay with me, because the next chapter, that's where the glow-up begins. And trust me, when they see it, they won't just panic, they'll break. Number 4. They panic when you no longer seek closure. You don't heal when they explain it. You heal when you stop needing them to. Here's something they don't want you to realize, my friends. Closure was the chain, and they used it to keep you stuck. They knew you'd come back, not for love, but for answers. They knew you'd stay a little longer, not because they deserved your time, but because they never told you why they changed, why they ghosted, why they stopped trying. And as long as you were searching for closure, you were still orbiting their world. But the moment you stop, the moment you let go of the need to understand, explain, or resolve anything. That's when the panic begins. That's when they realize their last hook in your soul is gone. You want to know what most people don't understand? Closure isn't a conversation, it's a decision, a choice you make deep within yourself to stop chasing apologies, stop rereading the messages, stop trying to decode someone who was never honest in the first place. And that moment, that powerful, terrifying, beautiful moment when you say to yourself, I don't need to know why, that's the exact second they feel the ground shift under their feet. Imagine it like this. You've been holding onto a burning rope, convinced there's something at the end of it, some explanation, some emotional reward. But the longer you hold on, the more it burns. And then, finally, you just drop it. You open your hand. The burn heals. And for the first time, you can walk away with both hands free. And they were counting on you never letting go. That's why they left it open-ended. That's why they didn't give you a straight answer. That's why they disappeared without a goodbye or fed you half-truths. It wasn't just confusion. It was control. Because a confused heart keeps coming back. A confused heart waits and wonders and texts, I just want to talk. But a heart that chooses peace over clarity, that heart terrifies them. Quote, time. They left the door open, hoping you'd never stop knocking. That's the lie they fed you. That closure was something they owed you, that one day they'd come around and tell you the truth. But what you didn't realize is, the truth was always in their actions, the silence, the distance, the excuses, the way they made you feel unseen even when you were giving your all. That was the closure. But you were still standing there, waiting for words to make sense of wounds. You thought if you could just understand it, you could move on. If they could just say it, you could finally release it. But let me tell you something, folks. No amount of explanation fixes the damage of disrespect. No words undo abandonment. And sometimes the worst betrayal isn't what they did. It's that they made you believe it was your fault. But here's what they didn't expect. They didn't expect you to outgrow your need for answers. They didn't expect you to stop chasing meaning in meaningless people. They didn't expect you to wake up one day and say, I don't need this anymore. And that's when they panic, because closure was their last string. It was their invisible leash. And now that it's cut, now that you're no longer seeking their explanation to validate your pain, they realize they've lost you in a way that can't be reversed. Let me be real with you. It's hard. It's hard to stop seeking what you feel you deserve. It's hard to let go when every part of you is screaming, but I need to know why. But here's the higher truth. You don't. You need peace. You need healing. You need freedom. And none of those come from the mouth of someone who didn't value you when it mattered. Sometimes closure isn't about understanding what happened. Sometimes it's about understanding who you are now. Someone who doesn't beg to be explained. Someone who doesn't beg to be chosen. Someone who closes their own chapter and walks into the next one with head high and heart healed. They thought they'd always have you in limbo. Thought you'd always be just one unanswered question away from running back. But now, you're not standing at the door, you're bricking it shut, not with anger, but with acceptance. And that's when the fear sets in. Because when you stop seeking closure, you stop being predictable. You're no longer sending, "Can we talk?" messages, no longer reacting to their little emotional breadcrumbs, no longer checking your phone for their apology that will never come. And they don't know what to do with that. They don't know how to reach someone who doesn't want to be reached anymore. Let's talk about the shift for a second. You go from anxious to anchored. From needing clarity to creating it. You stop talking about them and start talking to yourself differently. You stop trying to fix what broke you and start building what they could never handle, your peace, your new self, your unapologetic future. And folks, let me tell you, there is nothing more powerful than someone who healed without closure. Because you're not just healing, you're freeing yourself. And freedom, real freedom, doesn't wait for a text to begin. It begins when you say, "I'm done needing people to explain their betrayal." So say it with me. I don't need closure. I choose peace. Write it in the comments. Say it out loud. Say it to yourself every time your mind tries to drag you back to that old door. Because the truth is, your healing is not a question for them to answer. It's a decision for you to make. And today, you made it. They panic when they can no longer keep you confused. They panic when the story ends without their permission. They panic when you stop seeking their words and start writing your own ending. The kind where you walk away not bitter, not broken, but better. So keep walking, keep rising. The door doesn't need to be closed by them. You already locked it from the inside. And what's coming next? Oh, they don't see it coming. Stay with me, because the next chapter is where you stop surviving and start thriving. Number 5, they panic when you start glowing, and they have no access. The glow-up they fear most is the one they don't get to witness. You want to know when the panic really sets in. It's not the moment you go quiet. It's not the moment you stop replying. It's not even the moment they realize you've stopped waiting. The real fear, the kind that keeps them up at night, scrolling your profile with shaky hands, is when they see you glowing, and they're not part of it. Not invited, not welcomed, not even mentioned. Because here's what they never expected, my friends, that you wouldn't just heal, you'd rise. They thought your silence was weakness, that you were sitting there crying in the dark, refreshing your inbox, checking their last scene, holding on to the hope that maybe one day they'd come back with a text that said, "I was wrong, but you didn't wait, you didn't beg, you built, and now you shine." Picture it like this. They thought they left you in pieces, a mess, a ghost of your former self. But instead, you disappeared into your silence like a seed buried underground. And while they thought you were fading, you were rooting, growing, strengthening. And now you're back, not as who you were, but as something they can't recognize. And nothing scares someone more than seeing the person they broke become someone they can't reach. They were so used to you needing them, emotionally, mentally, maybe even physically. They liked being the center of your world while giving you only scraps in return. And now you're not just surviving, you're thriving, posting with confidence, moving different, glowing in ways that don't scream, "Look at me," but whisper, "You lost something rare." That quiet confidence, that's what shakes them. Quote time, they thought your silence was a pause. Turns out it was a transformation. And here's the thing, your glow-up wasn't just a new outfit or a gym membership. It wasn't some surface-level revenge plan. It was internal, spiritual. You started eating better, not for looks, but for energy. You started working out, not to impress, but to feel strong in your own skin. You started learning new things, creating, showing up for yourself, not to be seen, but because you finally remembered who the hell you are. And the glow that comes from remembering your worth, that's not something you can fake. That's something people feel, even through a screen. You want to know why they panic when they see you glow, because it confirms what they feared but never wanted to admit. They were the one holding you back. They told themselves you were lucky to have them, that you'd fall apart without their presence, that no one else could love you like they did. But now they see the truth written all over your life. You never needed them. They needed you. They needed your energy, your loyalty, your love, your presence, and now they can't even watch it unfold without choking on their own regret. Because you didn't just level up, you locked the door behind you. And don't get it twisted. This isn't about showing off. This isn't about making them jealous. This is about you choosing you every single day. It's about reclaiming every piece of yourself you lost, trying to prove your worth to someone who didn't see it. And when you do that, when you start showing up for yourself the way you used to show up for them, they panic. Not because you're gone, but because you've outgrown the version of you they once had access to. And, oh, they'll notice. Don't let their silence fool you. They're watching, quietly, secretly, obsessively, screenshotting your stories, rereading your captions, watching your glow-up like a movie they weren't invited to. And the worst part? There's no role left for them, no spot, no access pass, not even a backstage invite. And that's the beauty of it, because the best revenge, it isn't loud, it isn't petty, it's not, look what you missed out on, it's, I'm not even trying, and I'm still rising. Here's what they don't tell you about glow-ups. It's not the physical change that stings, it's the emotional evolution. It's realizing you're no longer chasing people, no longer explaining yourself, no longer begging for energy you used to give so freely. It's the fact that you're now giving that energy to yourself, and they know they can't compete with that. No one can, because self-love, it hits different. Say it with me, I glow for me. Write it in the comments. Let that be your power phrase. Not, I glow to get them back. Not, I glow to make them jealous. No, you glow for you, for your peace, for your healing, for your future. Let the world see it. Let you feel it. And if you're just starting, keep going. If you're still in the messy part of the journey, the part where it still hurts, where it still confuses you, good. That's where the seed breaks. That's where transformation begins. Because the truth is, your glow-up isn't a moment, it's a movement, a daily decision to keep showing up, even when no one claps, even when no one sees it, even when they pretend not to notice. Because here's what you need to know and never forget. They notice. They always do. They just don't know how to admit it. Their ego won't let them tell you that they miss you, that your peace makes them feel small, that your joy without them feels like a knife twisting in their chest. But you'll see it. You'll feel it in the way they linger around your energy, hoping for a crack in your armor. Don't give it to them. Your glow-up is sacred. Protect it. Don't dull it down to make someone else feel better. Don't go backwards to make them more comfortable. Don't hand over access to the person you had to fight to become. They didn't clap for you when you were breaking. They don't get front row seats now that you're shining. So let them panic, let them wonder, let them stalk, let them spiral, because the version of you they remember, that version doesn't exist anymore. And the one that stands in the mirror today, that's someone they'll never deserve again. And stay with me, because the next chapter we're walking into, that's when the glow becomes untouchable. That's when they realize they didn't just lose you, they lost a version of you they'll never meet again. And that realization, it doesn't just sting, it shatters. Number 6. They panic when their replacement doesn't replace you. They thought you were a chapter, but you were the whole damn book. Let's cut straight to it, my friends. They thought they could replace you. That's why they moved on so fast. That's why they paraded someone new in front of you, like a trophy, like proof that they'd already upgraded. They wanted you to see it. They wanted you to break. They wanted you to believe you were forgettable. But deep down, they were praying this new person would fill the void you left behind. And now, that panic you're feeling in them, it's real, because they're starting to see the truth. You weren't just another option, you were the one. You see, the problem with people who take you for granted is this. They assume you're replaceable because they've never sat in silence long enough to miss you. They think, I'll find someone else. And maybe they do. Someone new, someone exciting, someone who doesn't know their games yet. But it doesn't take long before the mask slips, before the fantasy fades, and they realize this new person isn't you. Imagine this. They walk into a store looking for something better, like you were a product on a shelf. At first, it feels fresh, easy, fun. But soon enough, they realize it's cheap, it's hollow, it doesn't fit right. And that's when they start reaching for the old version they tossed aside. They look back and start remembering your loyalty, your patience, your depth, the way you loved them even when they didn't deserve it. And suddenly, this new person doesn't feel so shiny anymore. Quote, time. Replacing someone doesn't remove the void, it just delays the grief. See, they thought moving on would erase you. They believed that if they could just distract themselves with someone new, they wouldn't have to face the truth of what they lost. But here's what they didn't expect, that your energy would linger, that even in silence, even in your absence, you'd still be present, in their memories, in their regrets, in the way the new person just doesn't measure up. Because let's be honest, what they miss isn't just your body, or your laugh, or your company. What they really miss is how they felt when they were around you, that feeling of safety, of being truly seen, of being loved unconditionally. And when they try to find that same feeling in someone new and fail, that's when it hits. You weren't a phase, you were a foundation. And the best part? You didn't have to do anything. You didn't beg. You didn't post to make them jealous. You didn't compete. You just disappeared and became irreplaceable. You let your absence speak. And now it's screaming. They try to mimic the connection. They try to recreate the inside jokes, the deep conversations, the effortless comfort. But it doesn't land the same, because the new person didn't grow with them, didn't forgive them like you did, didn't understand their shadows like you did. They miss you, and they hate that they do. And here's the truth, folks. You can't replace soul energy. You can find someone new. You can sleep next to someone different. But that soul imprint you left, that doesn't fade, that stays, that echoes, that haunts. Now they're stuck in limbo, trapped between the person they used to know and the stranger they now love. And they're frustrated, because no matter how hard they try, this new connection won't feel like home. Because home was you, and they locked the door behind you thinking you'd come back. But now that door is sealed shut, and the panic is real. Let's make something very clear. You are not jealous of the replacement. You are the standard. You're not watching their stories, wondering what they're doing. You're not comparing. You're not competing. Because, you know, they can't duplicate what they never understood in the first place. They thought they downgraded you, but really they downgraded themselves. They stepped out of something real and into something temporary. And now they're realizing the price of losing you is regret they'll carry quietly. You won't hear them say it. Their pride won't let them. But you'll feel it. In the way they circle back, in the random texts, the vague posts, the passive-aggressive silence. It's all a desperate attempt to feel connected to what they lost. But they'll never say it out loud. And here's where your real power shines through. You don't need them to say it. You already know, because you've grown, you've healed, you've upgraded yourself. And now you're not even the same person they left behind. You're wiser, colder, maybe, but more whole. Say it with me. I am not replaceable. Write it in the comments. Let the world hear it. Let you hear it. Let them hear it, loud and clear. Because the minute you truly believe that, you stop looking back. You stop wondering what they think, and you start walking like the person they'll never get another shot at. You didn't lose. You were the loss. And the deeper they go into their new love, the more they'll realize it. It might not hit them today or tomorrow, but one day when the newness wears off and they're left sitting next to someone who doesn't get them, they'll miss your soul, your light, your loyalty, and by then you'll be too far gone. This isn't about revenge. This is about recognition. Recognition of your value, your rarity, your refusal to play second place ever again. They thought they upgraded, but they only traded depth for distraction. And now they're drowning in shallow waters. So let them panic. Let them perform. Let them post pictures, pretend, overcompensate. You don't need to react, because the loudest message you can send is no message at all. Stay with me, my friends, because the next phase, that's when they finally admit it, not to you, but to themselves. They lost something they'll never find again. And the truth is, they were never ready for what you were offering in the first place. But you're just getting started. Number 7. They panic when you don't even hate them anymore. The scariest goodbye is the one that comes with no anger, just silence. They were prepared for your rage. They were ready for the meltdown, the long texts, the accusations, the broken "I hate yous" wrapped in love that still lingered. They expected the storm. They expected tears and noise. They expected to be the center of your emotional universe, even in your pain. But what they never expected was indifference. That's when the panic starts, folks. Not when you cry, not when you scream, not even when you block them out of frustration. No, they panic when they look around and realize you're not mad anymore, because hate still means they matter. Hate still means you're emotionally invested. Hate means they still have the power to affect you. But indifference, that's emotional death to someone who once lived off your reactions. See, they were counting on your fire. They wanted to be the villain in your story because it kept them relevant. It gave them a role. But now there's no story, no chapter, not even a line. You just moved on. You're not hurt. You're not healing. You're healed. And healing doesn't make noise. It makes distance. Imagine it like this. They were used to sitting at the center of your emotional stage. You spun around them, every thought, every feeling, every reaction crafted with their name in it. But now the stage is empty, the spotlight's gone, and they're just a memory in a theater that's been torn down. That realization, it hits like a punch to the ego. Quote, time. The opposite of love isn't hate, it's apathy. And right now, your apathy is echoing through their soul like a silent alarm they can't shut off. They might try to provoke you, post something shady, pretend they've moved on harder than you, drop some bait in your inbox, but nothing lands because you're not the same person. You're not bitter, you're not angry, you're just done. They want a fight, but you won't step into the ring, and that drives them insane. Here's the part they'll never understand. Peace is more powerful than punishment. You're not trying to make them feel bad. You're not seeking revenge. You're simply too free to care, and that's what breaks them. Not that you walked away, but that you didn't look back, that they became irrelevant in the world they used to rule. It's hard for them to process because your silence doesn't fit their narrative. They tell themselves you're still hurting, still angry, still obsessed, but deep down they feel it. You're not cold, you're clear, and clarity doesn't scream. It doesn't chase, it simply exits. You no longer need closure. You no longer rehearse old conversations. You no longer build fantasy futures with someone who couldn't even show up for you in reality. You've reclaimed your mind, your heart, your future. And the scariest part? They don't exist in any of it anymore. They panic because they know what they lost, and there's no coming back from this version of you. This version doesn't want an apology, doesn't want to talk, doesn't want anything, because the real power move wasn't in proving your worth to them. It was in remembering your worth for you. You're not seeking revenge. You're seeking peace. You're not posting to get their attention. You're building a life that doesn't require it. They used to be the sun in your sky, and now they're just a shadow fading at your back. This isn't bitterness. This is evolution. Say it with me. I feel nothing, and that's everything. Write it in the comments. Let it be your closing chapter, not with fury, not with begging, but with peace. Let it be your final statement. I'm not holding anger. I'm holding power. And here's what I want you to remember. Always, when they realize you've stopped caring, when they see there's no fire left to feed on, when they finally understand you're not holding space for them in your heart anymore, that's when they start to crumble, quietly, slowly, but deeply. Because when someone loses your attention, they lose access to your world. And when they lose access to your world, they lose the illusion of being important in it. They expected noise. You gave them silence. They expected anger. You gave them nothing. They expected a wound. You gave them a healed scar they'll never get to touch. And that's the real punishment. Not screaming, not blocking, not rage, but silence born from healing. Indifference born from growth. A calm so unbothered that it becomes louder than any words you could have ever said. So let them sit in that silence. Let them feel the absence they created. Let them spin the stories in their own head, trying to guess what happened to the version of you they once knew. And let them realize, far too late, that the real loss wasn't your reaction. It was your release. You don't hate them. You don't love them. You don't anything them. And that, my friends, that's what makes them panic. If you've made it this far, then you already know this wasn't about them. It was about you, your rebirth, your reclaiming, your rise. So now take a deep breath, look in the mirror, and remind yourself, I owe no one my peace. Write it below. Comment it like a signature on the final page of a story they never thought would end. Hit that like button if this truth spoke to your soul. Subscribe if you're ready to never go back, and share this with someone who needs to hear silence isn't weakness, it's your graduation. You've said goodbye without saying a word, and now you walk away louder than ever.